Two people make the exact same salary. One is drowning by the 20th of every month, moving money between accounts at midnight, hoping the timing works out before the next bill hits. The other hasn't thought about money in weeks. Not because she's rich, not because she earns more, but because for her, the decision already got made, automatically before she ever even saw the paycheck. Same income, completely different lives, and the entire gap comes down to one thing: a system that runs whether you're paying attention or not. My name is Echo Sticker, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the hidden psychological traps of wealth building, and why so many people treat their finances like a daily battle of willpower instead of a system they only have to build once. If you want a framework that works whether you're making $2,000 a month or $20,000 a month, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up being the last budgeting video you ever need to watch. Here's the trap almost everyone falls into. Discipline fails because it requires a decision every single day. Spend or save, invest or delay, buy it now or wait. That's exhausting, and exhausted people make bad decisions over and over, until the bad decisions just start to feel like personality traits instead of what they actually are. The predictable result of asking a tired brain to make the same hard choice hundreds of times a year. Systems win because they remove the decision entirely. You don't decide once a day for the rest of your life. You decide once, build the structure, and let it run. The framework. There's a 4-number system that solves this, and it works at almost any income level. 20% goes to growth. Investments, skills, assets that multiply over time. 10% goes to stability, your emergency buffer, your protection against chaos. 60% covers essentials, the real cost of living, not the inflated version most people are actually paying without realizing it. And 10% is for enjoyment, guilt-free spending that keeps the whole system sustainable long enough to actually work. Most people do this in the opposite order. They spend first, save whatever's left, and never actually get to investing, because there's never anything left by the time they get there. It's not that they don't want to invest. It's that the structure of save what's left guarantees there's never anything left to save. This framework flips that completely. You pay your future first. You protect yourself second. You live third. You enjoy fourth. It's not restrictive, it's intentional. And the order is the entire point, not a minor detail. Growth, the 20%. Let's start with the piece that actually builds wealth, because this is where the whole system either works or doesn't. The 20% allocated to growth is the difference between working until you're 70 out of necessity and having real options at 50. Here's the part that makes this non-negotiable. Pay yourself first. If you wait until the end of the month to invest whatever's left over, nothing will be left over. That's not a character flaw. That's just how spending works. In every income bracket, at every stage of life, we expand to fill whatever's available. Give someone a raise and watch their expenses quietly rise to meet it within a few months, almost without them noticing. The only real fix is removing the money before you ever get the chance to spend it. Automate the transfer the day your income hits your account. Make investing the default, not the afterthought that only happens in good months when there happens to be a little extra sitting around. Time matters more than amount here. Every single time. Someone who invests $500 a month starting at 25 and stops entirely at 35 will end up with more money at 65 than someone who waits until 35 to start and invests that same $500 a month for the next 30 years straight. That's not a typo. That's compounding. Starting small right now beats waiting to start big later. Every single time, and the gap between those two people only widens the longer you actually run the numbers out. Now, where that 20% actually goes matters too, but it's simpler than most people make it. You don't need to pick the perfect stock or time the market. Think of it as a ladder, starting safe and adding exposure as your foundation gets stronger. Start with high-yield savings and government bonds. Boring, but they protect capital while still earning something. Then move to broad market exposure through index funds, the entire market at once instead of betting on individual companies. You're not trying to beat the market, you're trying to match it consistently for decades, which historically has been one of the more reliable bets a person can make with their money. But here's the highest return investment in the entire framework, and it's not financial at all. It's you. A skill that increases your earning potential is often the fastest wealth accelerator available. A course that costs $2,000 and adds $20,000 a year to your income isn't a modest return, it's a tenfold return in year one. No stock reliably does that, not even close, and yet most people will research a stock for hours before they'll spend a single afternoon researching a skill that could change their income permanently. Stability, the 10%. Here's what most people get completely wrong. They think they have a money problem. They don't. They have a stability problem. One car repair turns into a credit card balance. One medical bill undoes 6 months of progress. It's not that they're bad with money, it's that they're one emergency away from starting completely over, and that single emergency arrives eventually for almost everyone. This is what the stability allocation solves. It's not meant to grow aggressively. It's not an investment. It's protection. It's the buffer that keeps you from having to liquidate your growth assets at the worst possible moment, the moment the market's down and you desperately need cash anyway, forcing you to sell low precisely when you can least afford to. Here's how you calculate the target. Add up your true monthly essentials: rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, minimum debt payments. Multiply that number by 5 or 6. That's your number. If your essentials run $2,500 a month, you need somewhere between $12,500 and $15,000 sitting untouched, ready, waiting for a day you hope never comes but no eventually will. Where you keep it matters. Somewhere with immediate access, no volatility, and a small, reliable yield. A high-yield savings account works well here. The point isn't growth. The point is accessibility without risk. And here's the rule that makes it actually function as a system instead of a one-time fund. The moment you use it, you replenish it immediately. Treat it like a loan to yourself that gets paid back before anything else happens. No exceptions. No "I'll catch up next month" excuses that quietly become permanent. Essentials, the 60%. This is where most people lose the game without ever realizing they're even playing it. Income goes up, and lifestyle quietly goes up right alongside it. A raise turns into a nicer apartment. A promotion turns into a nicer car payment. And somehow, despite making more, they're still stressed about money every single month, wondering where it all actually went. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's the silent version of staying broke, the kind that doesn't look like struggling from the outside at all. Looking wealthy and being wealthy are opposites. One is about appearance, the other is about options. The person in the leased BMW with $400 in savings isn't winning anything. They're performing, and performance is expensive every single month, whether anyone's actually watching or not. Capping essentials at 60% forces real clarity. Housing, food, transportation, utilities, insurance, that's the actual list. Everything else is a luxury wearing a necessities clothing, dressed up just convincingly enough that it stops feeling optional. When you cap it, you start asking better questions. Do I actually need the bigger place, or do I want to impress people I don't even particularly like? The two biggest wealth killers consistently are housing and transportation. People stretch for the maximum mortgage they technically qualify for, then wonder why there's nothing left to save. They finance a car they can't actually afford because the monthly payment feels manageable, then stay trapped in that payment for 6 years, sometimes longer if they roll it into the next one. Let's make this concrete. If you make $5,000 a month, your essentials cap is $3,000. If your rent is $1,800 and your car payment is $500, you've already burned through 77% of that entire budget before food, before utilities, before insurance. You're not building wealth at that point. You're servicing lifestyle debt with a paycheck that was never going to cover it in the first place. Here's the part that actually stings. A $400 monthly car payment over 10 years is $48,000 spent. That same $400 a month invested at an 8% return over 10 years becomes roughly $73,000 built. You're not really choosing between a nice car and a boring car. You're choosing between a car and financial freedom. Even if it doesn't feel like that choice in the moment, you're signing the paperwork and the salesperson is talking about how affordable the monthly payment really is. Enjoyment, the 10%. Here's what happens when people cut too hard, when they try to skip straight to some extreme version of frugality without this piece in place. They burn out. They break their own system. They binge spend out of pure resentment, buying things they don't even particularly want just to feel some relief from the restriction, and then feel worse than before they started. That's exactly why this final 10% exists. It's not a reward for good behavior. It's what makes the entire system sustainable long-term instead of collapsing in month 4, which is usually right around when purely restrictive budgets fall apart. This is guilt-free spending, ideally kept in its own separate account so it feels psychologically distinct from everything else. It's a percentage, not a fixed number. So as your income grows, so does the amount you get to actually enjoy without a shred of guilt attached. Use it for whatever actually brings you joy. Dinners out, concerts, hobbies, a trip. No justification required. But here's a small nuance worth knowing. Experiences tend to outlast objects. A dinner with people you love creates a memory. A new gadget creates clutter and a fading dopamine hit that's mostly gone within a week. A trip you took 2 years ago is still a story you tell at dinner parties. Neither is wrong, it's just worth knowing which one actually holds its value over time, long after the credit card statement is forgotten. Why this actually works. Put all four pieces together and something clicks into place that pure willpower never manages to deliver. You grow, because the 20% compounds quietly in the background whether you're paying attention to it or not. You're protected because the 10% stability fund means a broken laptop is an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe that derails everything you've built. You stay consistent because the system isn't built on deprivation. The enjoyment allocation keeps you sane enough to actually stick with it for years instead of weeks. And your essentials stay capped because 60% forces the kind of clarity that prevents lifestyle inflation from quietly eating every raise you ever get before you even notice it happening. This isn't about earning more right now, although that helps too, and it's worth saying plainly, the wealthiest people don't obsess over saving an extra 2%. They obsess over growing their income by 20%, 50%, 100%, and then routing that growth through the exact same structure they already trust. A disciplined system on $4,000 a month is genuinely good. That same system on $8,000 a month changes the entire trajectory of your life because the structure scales even when the number does, without requiring you to reinvent anything. Go back to those two coworkers for a second. Same salary, same starting point, same access to every opportunity the other one had. The difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't luck. It wasn't even income, since they earned exactly the same amount. One of them built a system once and let it run quietly in the background of an otherwise normal life. The other one relitigated the same financial decisions every single day, exhausted a little more each time, until exhaustion started looking like a personality instead of what it actually was. So here's where you actually stand now. You know why discipline alone fails and why systems win instead, because systems remove the daily decision that discipline depends on. You know the four pieces: growth, stability, essentials, enjoyment, and the exact order they're meant to happen in. You know why paying yourself first isn't optional. It's the entire mechanism that makes the rest of this work at all. And you know that this isn't about restriction. It's about direction. You don't need a better job right now to start this. You don't need to wait for some future version of your income that feels more ready than the one you have today. You need one transfer, automated, starting the next time money hits your account. Build the structure once. Let it run. Staying broke, genuinely, mathematically, becomes close to impossible from here.